creative friends, get ready for a burst of sunshine as we dive into the world of art and reviews. Today we are checking out some pencils that have come straight from Japan. We are on a quest to play with all the art stuffs, and today I'm testing a pencil with one of the more unique and exotic cores I've had the pleasure of using. Direct from Osaka, Japan is the very bright, very cool, and I have to say very exciting Holbein Artist Colored Pencils. I'm not gonna lie, I've always really wanted to have an excuse to try these pencils, but I've never had a good reason to buy them. Luckily, I absolutely had to check them out for this. I'm very excited to see how they hold up on my extensive scientific-ish testing. But first up though, let's start by taking a closer look at the pencils themselves. What I have here is the Holbein Artist 36 pencil pack. The first thing I notice is the packaging. It's super bright, colourful and glossy. I love the pink on the front and the silver stylings on the side are very pretty. There is also small indents around the edge of the tin, which feels quite elegant. Printed inside the lid are all the colours Holbein has available and which pencil kit they're available in. That's a very useful way to find what colour you need and where to find it. We have a piece of tissue paper separating the pencils from the lid. Under it we can see all the colours, which are very bright and very inviting. At first glance, the pencils themselves seem vibrant and appealing, each pencil tucked snugly in place by what looks like white paper packing. The paper holding the pencils is very cute, but it does seem a little bit shallow, and I suspect the pencils may roll around a little bit in the tin if it isn't fully packed with pencils. Everything about this kit just adds to the feeling that you have something exceptionally special and the manufacturer cares about their product. At first glance, I love the look and the feel of the Holbeins. The tin and the packaging is very nice and it feels premium and fun. The little accents of the tissue paper inside and the addition of the paper pencil supports feels very Japanese. The colours are bright and poppy and they leave me with a feeling of wanting to look and not touch, which is really weird for me because I never really want to do that with anything. I like to use things and pencils are there to be used. From the colours that hit you straight away to the shape and the vibe of the whole tin, everything is very appealing. On the website, the Holbien Coloured Pencils have quite a few sets available. One of the first things you see is a similar chart to what's inside the lid. What set has which colour, etc. Always a useful thing when you're looking for that one particular pencil. The Holbeins come in multiple sizes and box types, including sets in a tin or sets in a cardboard boxes from 12, 24, 36, 50, all the way up to 150. They even have an opulent set of 150 in a wooden box for those collectors out there. They also have a pastel range, which I really love and would like to try sometime. By the look of it, they've actually changed their branding quite recently, and I have an older kit design. I'm not sure if I'm actually really sold on the new design, but maybe that's just because I really like this old one. These pencils are a glossy round barreled pencil. Some people like round, some people like hexagonal. This is all personal preference. The length of the overall pencil is 174 millimeters or 6.88 inches from tip to tail, and the diameter is a reported 7.8 millimeters. My measurement actually showed that they were a little bit bigger, being around 7.94 millimeters. The Holbein pencil's core is actually quite an unusual one in that it's a combination of a wax, fat, and oil, which apparently gives saturation and strength to the core. The core comes in at a size of 3.8 millimeters or 0.15 inches. The design of the pencil is classic and classy. Printed in gold lettering is the brand and information imprinted on the pencil. It gives a slight indent, but the pencil itself is quite sleek and smooth. There is a decorative gold ring that circles the whole pencil, 2 centimeters down from the end of the pencil itself. One side of the pencil shows the title of the pencil, Holbien Artist Colored Pencil, followed by the pencil's origin, which in Holbein's case is Japan. Further around the pencil, we have the Holbein logo and printed Holbein Works Limited. There is also an unusual star system from 1 star to 3 stars that Holbein uses to show how light fast the pencils are, which is a very cool feature for those of us using the pencils in mixed media. The pencil has a curved shaped end, which I like. I have this with my current pencils and it's one of my favorite features. I also like how each pencil is covered in its color, and from what I can tell, it appears to match the color of the core closely. Whether the pigment it puts down matches the barrel color, we'll find out later. So with the Holbein pencils, I like the design and the look of the pencils. They feel like they fit my hand well, and they have a nice weight to them. Texturally, they feel glossy and silky, which is really nice. I think the star system shown on the pencil is an interesting value add. I'm not sure as to the usefulness for myself, but it does show the company cares, and for more specialized pencil artists, it's a convenient thing to have. Overall, the pencil is very comfortable in my hand. The gold lettering looks professional and luxurious. I also really appreciate pencils that have the color all over the whole shaft, as I like to be able to find the pencil I want quickly and easily. The vibrancy of these pencils is also very pleasing to the eye. Whether the actual pigment they put down can live up to these super vibrant, super glossy pencils, we'll have to see. So that's the physical side of our Holbein pencils. Next, we're going to do a series of tests, some which are a little bit scientific, while others of course rely more on the vibe or the overall feel of the pencils. For our first test today, it's the saturation and vibrancy test. How bright and saturated can we make these pencils? This test tests the hardness of the lead. The softer the lead, the more pigment we're going to get on the paper. It's also a good indicator of how consistent the pencils are. The Holbien Artist Pencils core is actually a combination of wax, fat, and oil, which should give us an interesting consistency. Oil usually gives a harder core, but wax usually gives a soft one. So I'm really eager to see how these pencils react when we apply pressure to them. How will this mixed core perform? Let's find out. Now, because we can't test all the pencils, I'm going to pick 4 colors plus our black. We'll run the tests on each of these and then assess the results. The colors I have chosen for the Holbein test are red, scarlet OP044, green, fresh green OP243, blue, cerulean blue OP335, and yellow, canary yellow OP147, with the black being black OP510. Often I'll test a white as well, but unfortunately I realized too late that there is none in this kit. So what's going to happen in this test is I'm going to be putting down pigment from pencils at 5 different pressures: 25 gram, 50 gram, 100 gram, 200 gram, and 400 grams. Very light to very heavy. Also, for you paper people out there, I'm just using a basic 120 GSM mixed media white paper for these tests. Let's go see what happens. We're going to start at the lightest weight here of the 25 grams, and we're going to start with our red, and we're going to put it down as lightly as possible in that 25 gram range. It actually looks pretty saturated considering it is only at the 25 gram. Let's have a little look at the green. The green's a little bit harder to see at that 25 gram, but this is more what I would expect to see, I suppose, within this 25 gram range. Now for our blue, and popping that in at our 25 gram. This is actually so hard to control. Any pencils on this scale, trying to keep them consistently at the 25 grams is really hard. But the blue looks really good as well. So let's try our yellow. The yellow is definitely a lot harder to see at the 25 gram than any other color. It's so light that it's actually really hard to see at all. Last but not least, let's try our black in the 25 gram. And the saturation's not actually too bad at this 25 gram weight. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes in the heavier weights, as whether it gets more saturated or stays the same. Time for our red at the 50 grams now. Is this going to be heaps more saturated? I reckon so. I think that's about a doubling in saturation and vibrancy for our red pencil. This is a great start for the Holbein. Okay, let's see if we can bring the saturation out in that green now. Do we feel like that has doubled the saturation and vibrancy? I don't know that it's a full 100% more saturation, but it's definitely gotten more saturated, say 50%. Okay, how's our blue going to go now? What I'm looking for here is at least a doubling in the saturation and vibrancy of these pencils, because 50 grams is twice 25 grams. And the blue, I think, is at least double in saturation and vibrancy. Let's see if we can capture the elusive yellow now in our 50 grams. At least we can see it this time. I still don't think it's double saturation here. I'd say it's more of a 50% increase, but we can see it this time, which is great. Now, because black is such a dark pigment, I'm kind of hoping that we'll get more of a saturation here. We're sort of not. We've gone up about 50% in saturation and vibrancy, which isn't great, but it is okay. Moving into 100 grams, I'm expecting this is where most of our pencils will shine because it is just hard enough to get a really nice saturation. And the red definitely is providing that at the 100 grams, which is lovely to see. Now, green, how are we going to go here? This is absolutely more where the green is coming into its own here. With the doubling of pressure, we have doubled that saturation. Blue, how much more saturated can we get? That's actually, I would say, maybe not double, maybe 50% more saturated in the blue. And the yellow, I think the yellow's actually finally starting to come to play. We can see it properly, which is wonderful to see. How about our black? Will we get much saturation out of this one this time? Here we go. It is a little bit more saturated, but still, I wouldn't say it's a full doubling in saturation here. Maybe again, 50%. These pencils seem to struggle a lot in the lighter weights, which is really interesting. Let's see what happens with our red in the 200 grams. So far, the red has been super consistent, which is really lovely to see. And this is no different. We've got a lovely saturation going on. I would say we've at least doubled in pressure for the red in the 200 grams from the 100 grams. The green is not too bad, maybe an increase of pressure of about 50%, not so much the 100%, but still, again, it's a pretty good result. That blue saturation has finally started to come and play. This has come to the 200 grams from the 100 grams. That's at least a doubling in pressure there. And I'm really impressed at the saturation and vibrancy of this pencil. These pencils seem super saturated, but not terribly consistent in their saturation as we've moved up in pressure. Looking at our yellow, I would say this is a full 100% doubling in pressure, whereas the earlier versions we hardly moved at all. Let's have a look at the black now. Our black finally looks black. Like the other versions are kind of grey rather than black. And this 200 gram from the 100 gram has finally given us the 100% increase in saturation. Finally, we have reached the 400 grams, but that red looks a lot more saturated. I don't know if it's twice the saturation, but at least a 50% increase. That green, however, is 100% of an increase in saturation. It has finally reached its full potential, even if it is at that super heavy weight. Now for our blue. So this color has been relatively consistent throughout these tests, and it has gone up in saturation, but I'd say about 75%. So will the 400 grams bring out the best in our yellow? I would say that's definitely gone up in saturation, perhaps not 100%, but maybe 75%. Now for our black at that 400 weight. That's definitely more saturated and vibrant. I would say it's gone up maybe 80%, not the full 100%, but it's much darker and saturated. And that was the saturation and vibrancy test. So you can see here that the pencils are a little bit all over the place. Literally none of the colors are consistent in stepping from one pressure to another. The red, green and blue aren't too bad and are relatively consistent in their color as each pressure stepped up and got heavier, but the yellow and black is very inconsistent. And on some pressures, they look like they didn't get any more saturated at all as they went up in weight. However, the blended core of Holbeins is very easy to draw with. It feels like it's gliding across the paper and doing the work for me. They are also very comfortable pencils. The size, shape, and texture of the pencil is all very ergonomic, and I didn't find my hand tiring from using them at all. So let's grade our Holbeins in saturation and vibrancy now. So the Holbeins unfortunately receive a middle of the road grade of C+. With that score in mind, let's place them on our scoreboard, and that goes about here. Okay, the next test is the single pencil gradient. Here we are taking our pencils and basically making as smooth a gradient as we possibly can, going from heavy to light. This is going to tell us how much control we have over the pencils and how easy it is to change from one pressure to the next effortlessly, and whether there is any major stepping in how the pigment lays down.
It's gradient time. Gradients, as you know, is the process of working from heavy to light. And the red pencil is doing exceptionally well. It is a little bit sparse in the light section though. I would like a little bit more of a lighter weight at that end point there. Let's see how our green goes. There is a little bit of a step there actually from the heavyweight to the medium weight there in the green, and same problem in the lighter sections. This seems to be an issue for us with the Holbein pencils throughout these tests, is that they're not great at getting to that lighter weight. It's the same with the blue here. We've got quite a big step off from that heavy saturated blue into that lighter and medium weights. And then when we get down the bottom, it's really hard to see that 25 gram mark. Let's try our yellow. So this color might be a little bit more forgiving because it is a little bit harder to see the steps because the yellow is a totally different pigment. However, I do think the gradient is much nicer on this one, even if we are missing that lighter end of the gradient once more. Now for the black, the gradient's actually quite nice. It's quite a smooth, easy to pop down gradient here, but we are still missing that end point.
Honestly, I was hoping that these pencils would be a little bit easier to use. This test is an exercise in working from heavy to light organically. The easier the pencil is to control as we pull off the pressure, the more tonal differences we can see as we move through the different weights. I found it very difficult to get into the lightest weights with this test. I felt like I was very light, at least into the 25 gram mark, but it was still very heavy on the paper. While most of these gradients are smooth and consistent, particularly the red, green, blue, and black, all of them seem to lack that tail end of the gradient. 25 grams was really hard to achieve. However, these pencils continue to be very comfortable and pleasant to use in this extended period of time. I'm so impressed with how little physical effort I have to put in to get these pressures that I want. Alrighty, let's grade them. Looking at how the 5 colors perform together and aggregating them, the Holbeins receive a very nice B for our gradient test. That B puts our Holbeins right about here on our scorecard. Nice work, Holbein! For this test, I'm bringing in our other colors. This test is going to tell us if and how these pencils blend. For this test, I'm taking our 4 primary colors, so red to green, blue to yellow, and I'm blending them together. I'm going to be paying close attention to what happens at the points where each color meets. What I'm looking for here is a seamless merging of each set of 2 colors and to see if they'll blend together nicely. Let's see what happens.
It's time to blend some pencils. Now I'm going to be using all of our 4 colors, the red to green and the blue to the yellow. What we're doing is we're creating a gradient, which, as you know, is the process of working from heavy to light. So we'll start off a gradient trying to make it smooth as possible with our red, and then we're going to bring the green up to meet it. Now, what happens in the middle is what we want to see. If we have a close look here, we can see that both the red and the green have blended together really smoothly. The transition between colors from one to the other is elegant and smooth, and the color that they've created together is almost like an orange color. Rather than them staying separate, they've created something new. Paying attention to the blue and the yellow now, we can see that the blue's created a really lovely gradient, and I'm just bringing the yellow up to meet it. And what we have here now is a really nice green color of the 2 colors combined. We've also got a really smooth step off from one color to the next, and the blend here is really great.
Let's just put it out there, these pencils blend very well. Both colors in each set blend together easily while maintaining their color's integrity. They move from one color to the next effortlessly in a seamless blend. If we have a close look at where they meet in the middle, we can see that they have a good blending of colors, and if we continue into one of the separate colors, the drop off from one to the next isn't too sharp. Probably the only color that's a little bit jagged is the blue as it goes into the yellow, but to be fair, it's not too bad. So because of our excellent smooth blending, I'm giving the Holbein pencils for this blending test a well-deserved A-. With that excellent A-, that puts them right here on our big scale up top with our polychromos. I hate it, and I know you guys hate it, when you grab the colored pencil you want, but it turns out to be a totally different color than what's on the swatch at the end. It's super annoying. So I want to know how accurate the color of the barrel of the pencil is and if it matches the pencil's core. The way we're going to be doing this test is by using our gradients that we prepared earlier and then moving our pencils up beside each of the corresponding colors. Do the colors match? Let's go find out.
This is the easiest way to color match that I have ever found. By using our gradients, we can just bring our pencils up and see if the color matches the barrel. And so far, the red is amazing, the green is spot on, the blue is pretty fantastic. The yellow is a little bit darker on the barrel than the pigment it's put down, as the pigment is really bright. But otherwise, the color accuracy in these pencils is pretty fantastic.
The Holbeins actually color matched really well. Exceptionally well, in fact. From my eyes, I think that the pencils are very close to perfectly showing the exact color they put down, which is amazing. I sneakily checked out several other colors in the range and was pleasantly surprised that for the most part, they were very consistent. So keeping this in mind, we're going to mark Holbein at an excellent with distinction mark of A+ for color accuracy. This test is really subjective to how our eyes view color, so let me know in the comments below if you think differently. With that excellent result from the Holbeins, it puts us right up the top, so far. So it's time for my favorite test, the break factor. What I'm going to do here is put pressure on my Holbein pencil until the core of the pencil snaps. This, as much as I hate to snap the lead of a beautiful pencil, it's a very important test. When you look at the breakpoint of a pencil, it's all about consistency. Does the brand have a consistent mix in their core all the time? Does this brand actually care about the quality of their pencils? So keeping this in mind, how much pressure before these pencils break? Let's go find out. To make this test as consistent as possible across all the pencils we're going to review, I've set up a couple of controls. I'm going to sharpen each pencil to a point. I'm then going to dull them slightly by drawing 3 lines at pressure. Basically, this will make sure we don't have a super fine point that will break immediately. I'm then going to be using a 45-degree square to get a consistent angle of pressure. Makes sense? Let's go break some leads.
Ah, the smell of leads being broken in the morning. For some reason, this test makes me really happy. And we're starting off this course of mass destruction with our red pencil. We're going to see exactly what the breaking point in this red pencil might be and how the quality of the lead goes. So putting on our pressure here, we're starting it small and we're slowly building it, and we've snapped at 645 grams. That's not so bad. It's around the midpoint so far. Let's bring in our green now and see if we can achieve that same consistency, or is it going to be all over the place? Let's find out. Putting on our pressure onto our green pencil now. Up we go in the pressure, and there we go at 565. It's not too bad. It's comparable with the red, but it would be nice if it was a little bit closer. Okay, so will our blue maintain that same level of consistency? Let's find out. Now, this is the bit that I always get super nervous about as we build up that pressure, but it is all part of the fun process. And boom, there we go at 675 grams. So far, we have relatively good consistency between these 3 colors. Let's see how the yellow goes. What will happen once we throw this pigment into the mix? Will it be a higher weight on the break test, or will it be a lower weight on the break test? It was much lower, 537 grams, and that fully snapped. That was very dramatic. Now for our black, I am so curious to see this one because the last time we tested a black in the polychromos, we had a huge weight difference. This one's come in at 666 grams, which isn't too bad, and these colours are relatively consistent.
Okay, well that was fun. Let's take a little look at the results we have. Firstly, we have an average breakpoint for the Holbein at 618 grams, which is on the softer side, but not extremely so. Obviously, there is more wax in the lead than oil. Looking at our scale, it is softer than last week's pencil, the Polychromos, but remember the Polychromos was heavily weighted with that infamous black pencil. The breaking points here were okay. Red, blue, black were all pretty consistent, but green and yellow were much softer than the others. Obviously, there's a lot of variables in this test, but I think we can see the consistency here, and it means the cores are very similar mixes, which is excellent and what we want. For decent consistency, I'm going to give the Holbeins a B+ for the break factor, which positions them right here, just edging ahead of the Polychromos. For my final test, I want to know if these pencils spark joy or cause despair. This test is purely based on my personal opinion and the vibe I get from the Holbein pencils. I like these pencils. They're very attractive and comfortable. I like the shape, size, feel, and look of these pencils. I like the simplicity and elegance in the gold lettering. I also like that it doesn't feel like the pencil is busy with too much stuff over the barrel. It feels professional and classy. Performance-wise, I was a little bit surprised that they didn't perform better. However, they do blend together very well, and their color accuracy is just mint. The whole test with these pencils was very interesting. Some tests were very consistent and other tests very inconsistent. I suspect that these pencils are the sort of pencil you use and learn to compensate for their flaws because they're just so nice. I do feel like the Holbein are a good pencil. So yes, today the Holbien Artist Coloured Pencils spark joy. Alright, because our Holbein pencils spark joy today, on our scale, I'm going to give them an A-, which puts them right about here. Okay, let's aggregate all of our scores from today and take a look at our scale. Overall, our Holbein comes in with a very nice B+, which is pretty good. Great job, Holbein. On the big scale, they're currently sitting in second place, just behind the Polychromos at an A-. Not quite as high, but they're so close. Well, my friends, that's it for today. I hope you liked this video and enjoyed my testing of the Holbein Artist Coloured Pencils. Whether you've always wanted to use these pencils like me, or you've just discovered them today, they are truly a great pencil and you should not deny yourself an opportunity to play with them if you ever get the chance. Let me know in the comments below if there's something I've missed or if you simply disagree with my findings. We have another pencil to review next time. This one is going to be on a brand I'm sure you're all familiar with, but perhaps not in a coloured pencil, Staedtler. As always, if you want more stuff, I'm on Twitch most days and there are way too many links below for you guys to go check out. That's it, everyone. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.